Okay, so in our previous class, we wrote some tests, some unit tests, and we tried to understand what testing is all about as well. But we only wrote some basic tests. We did not mock any module or any service. So in this class, we'll be testing our KCNotes, the one we wrote with Nest.js. I will be mocking some services. We will not use the actual implementation of the components we are testing. We actually mock the component. And mocking here is simply making available the functionalities that we actually implemented. We just develop some functionality to meet up with the one we actually implemented. We don't care about the implementation details. We just develop some by ourselves to meet up with what we actually implemented so as to test our application. Okay, so in today's class, we will test our KCNotes app, and we write some unit tests and end-to-end tests. So what we're actually going to be doing is you have to pay attention because we write unit tests on the auth controller and auth service. Then we write end-to-end tests to test our note route, or the note route. We write end-to-end tests to test them, and then we write unit tests to test our auth route, both the service and the controllers. So maybe we're just doing that for a reason, Sha. You get to know the reason in time to come. Okay, so let's continue. First of all, we start with unit tests, and we start with the auth service. So in the auth service, we test the sign up route and the sign in route. Okay, so what are we going to be testing? So we test if a user tries to sign. We just imagine what we want our app to, the functionalities of our app. Okay, if a user wants to sign up, what should the app do? If a user supplies a wrong password, or if a user already exists with that username, what should the user see? And we'll also test if everything is correct, and then what should happen. Our app should return a token. Actually, that's what we want. And from there, we keep on testing the signing and every other thing. Okay, so I just want you to get used to testing because testing is very, very important. And without talking too much, let's just dive into business. Okay, so I have where is this? Okay, let me just zoom in. I think this is okay. Let's clear our terminal and open. Okay, let's change directory to cd. Okay, this next. Okay, this 11 next. Okay, and we are in. Okay, please. Let's open this up and see what we've got. We've got the source directory here. And in the test, we have the E2E spec is blah, blah, blah. I guess we should just leave this and then we'll modify it later. And we have our source, and inside we have the auth. And we'll create another file and name it auth service spec TS. Okay, first of all, we start by importing the components we want to test. And the main component we want to test is the auth service. And the auth service uses the Prisma service. It also uses the JWT service, and it also uses bcrypt. So how do we align all of this to make it work together with the auth service by testing? So this is where we'll begin. And we'll first of all import the test from NestJS testing, and we'll also import a testing module from NestJS testing. So what else do we need? I will import the component we are testing, which is the auth service. So we say import auth service from auth service. Okay, what else do we need? And we have other components that are working together with this auth service. We'll be mocking some, or we'll actually be using some. So we have the Prisma service, we have the JWT service, we have bcrypt. Okay. So now let's say we have let's import the Prisma service like this. And we'll be getting some errors, and we'll see how we can correct those errors, because and we'll talk about that when we start seeing the errors. So we'll also import JWT service. Okay, this one is coming from Nest.js JWT. So we also need bcrypt. See, import everything as bcrypt from bcrypt.js. What else do we need? Okay, I think that's all for now. Okay, so first of all, we have to mock bcrypt. Okay, and the reason why we're mocking bcrypt is because we will be providing those functionalities. We'll be implementing them by ourselves, not using the one bcrypt provides. But if we don't want to mock that, it's fine. And let's continue without marking bcrypt first. Okay, now let's define a test suite. And a test suite here, we say describe. Then here we say auth service, because this is what we're actually testing. Auth service like this. Okay, so this is a test suite. So this test suite will contain some tests inside, actually some unit tests inside that we run if we execute the npm run test command. Okay, so first of all, what are we going to be doing inside this test suite? So we have to define our test and then invoke some callbacks. Okay, let's continue. Why I'm defining this test structure and the callbacks, I'll be explaining. So first of all, we have our let's auth service, which is our auth service like this. And then next we have the Prisma service. Let's Prisma service, which of Prisma service, and we also have the JWT service, which is coming from the JWT service class. Okay, so right now we have a hook, a very important hook. We have to let our test know that before each test runs, we want this to happen. And what do we want to do before each test runs? We say we invoke this hook before each. Then we pass in a callback of async. It's an async callback. Inside of this callback, we basically say, okay, say const module equal to, or let's say this is an object, I'll say it's a type of a testing module. And then we'll say it's equal to await. And then we'll say test, create testing module. We'll say the test, which is imported from Nest.js testing, dot create testing module. And then we'll pass in some arguments. This is actually a function with some arguments. First of all, we'll say the providers. If you come over to the auth module, as you can see, it has some providers and controllers. So here, we're just we're just creating this module for testing purposes. We're not actually using this one here. we are creating this one from the create testing module. This is a testing module. This is not actually our out module. So we bring in the providers that are inside of this. These providers are alt service and JWT strategy. But in here, we have a different kind of providers because we are not using the JWT strategy. We are just marking everything up. So the providers here is an array. And inside of this array, we say we need the alt service, which we're actually testing, the alt service. And we also need the Prisma service. And we need JWT service as well. And if you check the alt module, this alt service here and this JWT strategy. And the reason why we're providing the alt service and the Prisma service, all of this is because the alt service is using Prisma and JWT in this JWT strategy. So moving on, they will see here there is a .compile. Oops, not there. Okay, before each. Where is it before each? Here. Oops, what am I doing? Testing module. Await testing module. Okay, that's compile. Okay, so before each test, we want to invoke this module and then compile it to get it ready for testing. And while it is ready, we'll come over here and then we say, okay, the alt service, this alt service, we initialize here. Then we say the alt service is equal to module get, okay, module in here, not outside, in here. Say the alt service is equal to module. That's okay. So what are we getting? We're getting the alt service, which is of type alt service, and itself is an alt service. So we get the alt service here, and we get the Prisma service equal to module get. We have Prisma service. This is the type, and Prisma service itself. Okay. Now we also need the JWT service. JWT service is equal to module get, and here we have JWT service a JWT service. Okay, so this is before each function runs, compile this module and then get these services for us to use. Okay, so now it's time to write another test suite. Okay, so this test suite now is for testing our route. So we have the sign up route and the sign in route. So let's define a test suite for the sign up route. So say describe, and here we just say sign up, and then we'll pass in a callback. This is the test function. This callback is also known as a test function. This is where we'll be writing our test. And in here, we'll write our first test. So while writing test, you can use the test function or the it function. So we will be using the it function. We'll say it, and then you pass in the name of the test or the test description, and then the test function. Okay, so in here we say should throw. Okay, if a user wants to sign up and that very user already exists with a username, you should throw an error. So this should be the description of the test. Should throw error if user already exists. Yes, I think this description is okay. And then we pass in an async callback because we'll be writing asynchronous functions inside of this test function. Okay, so this is our first test suite, and this one inside of this and this sign up test suite is our first test. So how do we go about writing this? Okay, first of all, we have to mock an existing user. Okay, so let's come over here. Let's basically do it up here. Let's basically do it up here and then see, okay. Or let's do it here. Here, okay. Const existing existing user is equal to, let's just mock this user and then we'll say ID is of 1, because if you look at our Prisma, where is it? Prisma. If you look at the schema here, we have the ID of a string. So if you use a number, we get an error. Okay, see the ID here is a string and it's 1. Then we have also user name of a KodeCamp. We have a password, password like this. And we have a created at of new bit, updated at of new bit. If you take a look at the Prisma schema here, look at the username, password, created and updated. The note is actually optional. We're just connecting this note to the user. So we can omit it and everything will be fine. But if you omit any of those, you get an error, because this is what should be in the database if a user already exists. Okay, so we're just marking the date, marking the password and every other thing. So this is our existing user in our database. Okay, so how do we go about doing this? So we want to spy on the find unique function. Okay, first of all, before I explain this, let's just spy on this. We say just spy on, they will say Prisma service. They will say Prisma service dot user. No, this the small case Prisma service. Prisma. Why am I getting the caps? Prisma service. Okay, this should be inside. Grab this and then bring it in here so we can be able to access the Prisma service. Okay, just spies on Prisma service dot user. Okay, so we want to spy on the user. Okay, why am I getting this error? Okay, we're here to complete the function. So on the user service, what function do we really want to spy on? We want to spy on this user, but what function do we want to spy on? Now, if you go, you see all the Prisma functions, almost all of them, create many, and return, delete many. But the one we want is find unique. We want to spy on the find unique function. So while spying on this function, what do we expect? Okay, we want to spy on it and then mock the resolved value. We want to spy on this function and then mock the resolved value. So what is the resolved value of this function actually? When you find unique, this function will return a unique user with a given ID. So what do we want? We want this mock resolved value. So we want to mock the resolved value, and what we pass in here is the resolved value. So if we use this find unique function and then query the database, it will actually return a unique user with a given ID. So here we have a unique user with a given ID. So we say existing user. And we don't have any more errors. So we're spying on this function, and then this is just a mock. This is just a mock. We're not actually using the function, but then we're spying on it, and then we're telling it that, okay, if we invoke this function in this test file, return this, mock it, and return this user here. This is what we want. We don't want you to go query the database. Great. So now that we've mocked this, and then we say, okay, await. Since this is asynchronous, this is an asynchronous function, we basically say here that, okay, await, and then we expect. So what are we expecting? We expect auth service dot sign up. You know, the auth service has a method of sign up. So this sign up now, what are we passing in? We're passing in an existing user. We want to try to sign up with an existing user, then see what happens. Okay, now we're saying if the user exists, this should reject, and then to true, reject or to true, and then what do we pass in here? Let's come back to the auth service and then grab this. If there's an existing user during sign up, this is what we are testing, because we already implemented this and we want to see if it's actually working. So let's grab this. It should throw this. This is the error we want it to throw, and then grab it, bring it in here, paste it in. Okay, so here we're having a user. Existing user like this. And then we do away with this one. Okay, so this is actually now working. So if there's an existing user, we expect this error. And if you run our test, we get so many errors. So let's run npm run, what is this? npm run tests. Okay, so just it's running our test right now. Okay, 3 tests are failing. And look at the complaint here. The complaint here is, okay, in the node service, let's go to the node service and do away with this. Let's do away with this, delete this. And then this one as well. Node service spec. Then let's run this once more and make sure. Okay, let's run this once more and make sure, okay, we already have this, okay, auth service. Okay, that's the only file we have, but we are getting an error. Cannot find module s and source/prisma because jest cannot resolve this part. Okay, this is set up here in tsconfig, as you can see, path. But then next, the developers at Nest who scaffolded all of this forgot to also set up this part in jest. So I've been getting this error and it's very, very bad. I wish someone can give them feedback so they can go ahead and do that. So if you don't know what's going on, you will just get these errors and then you give up. But what this is saying is it cannot resolve this part because it is not set in the configuration of jest config. Where is jest config? I think it's in. It's not even exposed. Okay, so what we do here, we'll come over here and then here we'll make it a relative part. You see, dot slash and then the Prisma service. Where is the Prisma service? You see, dot slash. I think. Okay, let's just remove this and make sure it is working. Dot slash Prisma slash service. Okay, and then in here, what else? Okay, that's all because it is complaining of the Prisma service. Okay, so let's run this test on npm run test. One test is still failing and Prisma service and the auth service. Okay, so we have to also come back to the auth service and then change this so that Jest will be able to understand this. Yes, I'll see. Is this like this? Okay, let me just do away with this and this dot slash Prisma slash service like this. Okay, so let's run the test once more. Okay, so now our test is passing. Okay, I know you have some questions on mind to ask. So what are we really testing? Okay, so now you built your application, you used Postman to actually make a request to your app and it's working. But Sometimes you make their request, it will work. You make the request, it will fail, and all of that. So what we are testing here is we don't just write a random test. Okay, BioDay is asking why testing, why we can use Postman. You are not sure if you're using Postman. You are just using Postman to verify the functionality. But instead of using Postman, okay, when you use Postman, you pass in, you change things, like you pass in a correct password, later change to a wrong password to see what's actually happening. But while writing tests, everything is going on as expected. And if you don't want to use Postman, you write tests, and later on, if you change things, you avoid testing implementation details. Now, you change things. Any user at all that tries to log into your application, this is the error they will get. Okay, so now we're just mocking the user in our database. And BioDay, if you are still doubting what tests are and you don't know what, let's see, application testing importance, software testing importance. So the importance of software testing, let's just, I just want to show you something. Risk mitigation. Testing helps identify defects and failure early in the development process when they are less expensive to fix. So this reduces project risk related to quality, security, performance, etc. Confidence. This is one of the main reasons why I test applications. Confidence. Executing a well-planned software test and software test strategy provides confidence that the software works as intended before it's released. Before it's released, like you make sure your software is working as intended before you release it. The user satisfaction. Rigorous testing from a user perspective can verify usability, functionality, and compatibility. So this increases customer and user satisfaction and reduces negative impacts to an organization reputation or finances from poor quality products. And then optimization and cost savings. This is just few for why we test. And here you see software testing is a crucial activity in the software development lifecycle that aims to evaluate and improve the quality of software products. So thorough testing is essential to ensure software systems function correctly, are secure, meet stakeholders' needs, and ultimately provide value to end users. So the importance of software testing stems from multiple key factors, as you can see. So I actually told you to check this out by yourself, but I have to just come back here and then clarify why we are testing this software, so that if we deploy it, we are confident that our software is working as expected. As you can see, introduction here, we have helps in saving money, security, quality of the product, satisfaction of the customer, enhancing the development process, easy while adding new features, determining the performance of the software and all of that. So you can just go ahead and then Google this and then see what the result you will get. So software testing is very, very important. And that is why we are testing. So what we are saying here is when developing our application, we say if a user tries to log in with an existing user, and what should be here is an existing username. Okay, we make that mistake. Okay. So what we wrote our code here that if a user tries to sign in with an existing username, we should throw this error. So we're actually testing that, okay, is our application working as intended? Is it throwing this error if a user tries to sign in with a wrong username and then it is passing? So if you try to remove this exist and then you run npm run test, then it will fail. And then you see the error here, new bad error, because why this exists is no longer inside of this. That's the reason why we're getting this error. This is a kind of testing implementation details, but this one is this is not implementation details because this message here will hardly change. And this is the reason why now if you run your tests, okay, the test should now pass. Okay, so now after this, what else do we expect in our sign up function? Okay, if the user does not exist in our database, we basically hash their password, and then sign them up, and then return a token. So how do we achieve that in this function while testing? Okay, let's see how we will achieve that. Okay, so now that we write another test, this is one, we have test suite, we have one test suite and it is passing. We have the test here, we have one test and it's also passing. So we want to write another test. This one is actually to sign the user in. So what is the test description? Should create a new user and return a token, which our app should create a new user and return a token if the user does not exist in our database. So it's async, the test function. So what do we need in our test function? Okay, so the new user we are creating. So, if you want to create a new user, the new user will take we will provide a username and a password. So we see const new user is equal to, let me say, username. Let's say KodeCamp. Username is KodeCamp, and the password is password like this. Okay, so now that we have a new user, we want to sign them up. So we want to spy on this. Let's copy this. We want to spy on this find unique function. So before we sign up a user, we will make sure that the user does not exist in our database. So this time around, we're not marking the result value here. We're saying no, because before we sign the user up, so here the user already exists in our database. That is why we're throwing this error. But then if you try to sign this user up and it does not exist, remember Prisma returns null. It does not find a unique value. It returns null. So that is the reason why we're passing null here. We're marking the resolved value of this find unique function. So we will find the user in our database and the user does not exist. The Prisma will return null. So now that the user does not exist, it is time to sign up our user in our database. So it is time to also spy on the create function. Just spy on, and you see Prisma service dot user, and then we say, okay, create. It is a create function. Okay, so what is the create function? We mock the resolved value. When we create a user in our database, basically, the user will be created and then returned. Let's check it out here. We have sign up, create user, and if you hover over this, the created user is being returned. And then we have ID, username, password created at, and updated at. And then the updated and the created at, they're all type of dates. And that is the reason why we're using new date right here. Okay, so now when a user is created, it is being returned. So now that we search and there's no user there, and if you hover over this here, you will see, okay, I think it's supposed to return, it show you or not. Okay, find unique. This is what I want to show you. It's either it finds something or it returns null. Okay, and the description, it finds 0 or 1 user that matches the filter, parameter, unique filter, and all of that. Okay, so now that there's no user in our database, what should we do? We want to create a user, and that is why we're spying on this function. Spy on this function, and when we call Prisma service.user, the actual function we actually evoke, but then we want to mock the resolved value. We'll invoke the function and then mock the resolved value. We don't actually want to get the actual resolved value. We want to mock our own value so as to use it to test. Okay, so what we will do now is, okay, now we want to mock the resolved value. So if you sign up a user, we'll mock the resolved value, and the returned user will be an object. So now we don't want to go ahead and then create a new user. We'll just say new user, new user, like this. Okay, but before this, we want to hash their password. We want to actually hash their password. So let's do this because we need the hashed password. Okay, so after finding, if we try to find a unique user and the unique user, it returns null, therefore means the user doesn't exist in our database. So how do we sign up their how do we hash their password and then create a new user? So we spy on another function. So what function are we spying on? Then we say spy on bcrypt. And then what function on bcrypt are we actually spying on? Then we'll see the compare sync and the hash. It's basically the hash. We're spying on the hash function of bcrypt. And then we mock implementation, not result value. We mock the implementation of this function, mock implementation. So how is this mock function implemented? It is an asynchronous function that resolve to a hashed password. So we say async function, and then we say return the hashed password. Okay, this is sounding like magic. It's sounding like Arabic, but I urge you to look at jest functions, despite the mock implementation, I mean the API of jest, and then try to understand what mocks are and everything. So we are mocking the implementation of this hash function. So while mocking the implementation, what the function does is it's an asynchronous function. But if you say hash sync, it's no longer an asynchronous function, and you need to remove this to get the actual. Now there's no more error because the head sync is asynchronous and not asynchronous. Now, if you return this to this, you will get an error because promise string is not assignable to type of string. This is not asynchronous. But since in our service here, we're using hash, and we're not using hash sync, here also has to be hash. So we're mocking this function. Okay, right now that this is the hashed password, and we have to use it to create the user. So now that we've hashed their password, what next? So it is time to create this user in our database. Okay, so now we've hashed their password, and let's create the user. So now let's uncomment this one right here, and then we'll say, okay, this is the new user, but then the password will be different because the password here has to be the hash password. So say hash password, because this is the password. But we are hashing and then return the hash password. If you use something else, you get an error because this is the password we're hashing, and then we're using it to sign them up. So we don't expose their password, so other users can then get access to the password and log in on their behalf. Okay. Basically, this new user doesn't have an ID, and they will say ID is of 1. And what else do we need? Okay, so now this function, this assume we've created a user. So what you are returning here is a created user. Hashed password. Okay, hashed password. Okay, thank you. Hashed password. Great. So after we are mocking the resolved value. So if a user is created, this is what the user will look like. The user will have a username and ID, password, which is the hash password. And what else? They will have a created art. As you can see, it's be auto-completed, created art of a new date, and updated art of also new dates, like this. And then the notes. You can provide the notes. Oops. Because when you create a user, they have the notes of an empty array because they don't have any existing notes. You can say this is an empty array, but then you are getting an error saying the type of ID string note undefined or it's not assignable to this. Okay, there's no notes. The notes are incompatible, the undefined notes. Okay, let's just remove that and leave it like this so we don't get errors. We don't want to go ahead writing undefined notes, and let's just leave it like this for now. So like we've created a user. So now that we've created a user, something else, we say, okay, result is equal to away auth service.sign up. And then we pass in this new user. So while we pass in this new user, this function will actually create a user, but it will not use this functionalities here. It will use this one. Once you call this function, what will first of all happen is it will find this, it will call this function return null, then hash the user password and return this hashed password, and then create a user in our database. All these are being mocked. It will not actually create a user in our actual database, but then we are mocking it here, and then we return this user. So after creating the user and then all this happens, then what else do we need to test? So we've created our user, and then we expect, okay, we need a token, which is JWT service. There's no token here, so we need a token. So how do we go about this token now? Because we need to, after sign up, we'll return a token. So how is that possible? Okay. We can basically come over here and see, okay. Just spy on, and then we see, you can see auth service. Okay, we don't need to do that here since we are testing the auth service sign up. Let's just come to these providers here, and in this JWT service, there's a way we can do this, and then we can make this an object. We can make this an object, and then inside of this object, see this object will provide the JWT service. So what else do we need? We need to use a value, use value. And then, okay, what value do we need? This is an object. And then we need the sign up. No, not sign up, the sign. And the JWT here, you know what sign? It will sign, when it's signed, it returns a token that will later be decrypted, and then the user credentials will be extracted from. So we say jest dot f, and this is just a mock function. Just create a mock function, optionally takes a mock implementation. Okay, so then this mock function will mock implementation. So we want to mock the implementation of this sign function. So what will the sign function return? Okay, it will hash user credentials and then return a mock token like this. Okay, so now that we are mocking this is actually great. So we'll now come over to we are mocking this JWT service. So now we'll come over here. Now that we've signed up a user, we're expected to return a token. So in here, over here, we say expect result, because when you sign a user, it will return a token. So we say expect result dot to equal. So dot equal, then we'll create an object with a token inside token, and then we'll say mock token like this. Wow, this is a kind of something that I believe we'll be finding it difficult to understand. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask, and we'll try to at least try to simplify things. But this we have to do, you have to make some research on your own. So now we've signed a user in, and then let's run our test. npm run test. Okay, so our two tests are passing. Okay, so now let's change this to, instead of mock token, let's say it is mock token like this. And then run test once more, npm run test. Okay, so one test is failing because we're expected to return this token, because while we're signing a user in, this is the token we're signing. This very one here, this mock token. And then let's do away with this error by saying, okay, disable no unused variables for this line. And then the error will go away. This is ESLint for you. And then we'll come over here. So when we change this back to token, and then we run our test, npm run test, boom, our two tests are passing. We have one test suite, and then our two tests to create a new user and return a token. And this is very, very easy, and this one as well. Okay, that's great. So when we check our auth service, this is basically what we are doing. We're checking if a user already exists and then returning this error message. But if a user doesn't exist, we're just hashing a password and then signing them in, signing them up and then returning a token. So this is a token. So this may be confusing, but you can basically come over here and do const token is equal to this JWT sign, and then instead of calling this sign, and then you pass this, and then you bring, you can come over and then grab this, bring it inside of the sign. Oops, twice. Grab this and this. Okay, like this, and then do away with this, and then leave the token inside like this. So it's for clarity. Most of us will understand what's going on here now. So this is the token. We're signing the token. This is the JWT sign. And we're signing the token with only the user ID. Okay. So now I have Postman open here. I guess I have this. Okay, this will no longer work. So let me just copy this. Okay, and our server is not running. Okay, so let's just say npm run start dev. Okay, so now that our server is running, let me go ahead and then send this request. Okay, so I have a valid token. So if I copy this token now, bring it over here, and then see, okay, JWTIO. Then you click on the JSON Web Tokens, JWTIO, come over to the playground, and then do away with this, paste this token. And you see that we have the payload here, we have the header. The token normally has a signature, the header, and the payload. As you can see, we have the ID of this. This is the ID. And if you open, okay, if you come over here and then we run npx Prisma Studio. Okay. Not here, please. CD11, okay. npx Prisma Studio. Okay. And now we have 3 users. So this one with Christoph, and then if you click on this, as you can see here, we have this ID end with 6K57, 26K57, and you start with CLZ, 26K57. As you can see, 26K57, and start with CLZ. So this is the token. So the red thing here is the header with algorithm of HS256, and the type is JWT. So the purple string here is it contains the payload, which is the ID, the IAT, and the expired time. The IAT is basically the time it was signed or something like that, yes. And then here we have the verified signature, which is this green, the verified signature, which contains our secret, basically. As you can see here, it's showing you invalid signature. Is that what it's showing? And where is our secret? Where is our secret? Come over here, grab KCNotes secret, bring it to JWT here, and paste it. And then it is showing signature verified. And the token here has changed. Okay, so now let's go to Postman. And then here is our token. As you can see, it's QAK-OZ, QAK-OZ for the signature whatsoever. As you can see, QAK-OZ. Now come over here and then do away with this secret. And you can see that now it has changed and we have an invalid, our this thing now is actually, if you type in something, okay, now we have an invalid signature. But then if you come, and then the ID, this payload is actually valid, but the signature is invalid. And if you try to use this token to log in, you will get an error. It has been tampered with. So if you come over here and then paste back your secret, you can see your token is the same as the one you got from Postman, QAK-OZ, and all of that. Here it is QAK for the so and all of that. Okay. So this is basically how JSON Web Tokens work. We never have time to talk about that, so I just wanted to explain it sharply. Okay, so that's just that. So now that we've signed it, let me just quit the Prisma Studio, and then come over here and quit our server as well. Okay, we'll use it later, but for now, let's just quit it. Okay, so now that we've finished with the sign up, we've signed a user up, and our test is passing. Okay, so now it's time to write another test suite, and this one is for, okay, test to describe. Okay, write another test to describe. And this one is for sign in like this, that text in a callback. So what do we need in our callback? So we need a test. This is a test suite, and we need to write some tests to say, so it. So inside of the it should return a user if exists and password is correct. Say should return a user if a user exists, and password is correct, like this. So this is basically an async. We make it an async. No? What is this? This is an asynchronous function. And inside of this asynchronous function, what we basically do is we start by hashing the password. So we're not mocking bcrypt. We can actually mock bcrypt, but here we're not mocking bcrypt. We're actually using the actual bcrypt. Okay, you see, okay. Hashed password is equal to await bcrypt hash. So we say, okay, bcrypt hash existing user. We already have an existing user. We say existing user dot password, and then we see, okay, 10, which is the salt, the round of random variable that will be added to the password. And then we see, okay, const mock user is equal to an object literal, and then we see the ID here is of 1. The user already created, and then we have a username of existing user dot username, and we have password, and the password here, password with this is existing user dot password. Okay, so now we have created that and updated that. Let's grab this here and then bring it down here. This is an existing user, so they must have all these properties. So we want to spy on the find unique. So we want to sign in. We want to spy on the find unique. So let's just grab this thing here. User find unique, and then bring it down here. But this time around, it should return the mock user. So this is the existing user, the user in our database, the mock user. And then what else do we need? We want to spy on the bcrypt. Now this time around, we're spying on bcrypt. Okay, so we say, okay, just spy on bcrypt, and the function is compare. And then what do we want to do? We want to actually mock the implementation of compare. So mock implementation. So what does compare do? Compare simply is an asynchronous function that returns a Boolean. So we'll come over here and then we see async function of compare, and actually returns a Boolean. And if you return this to false, our test will fail, because we're trying to tell this that, okay, the password does not match. So, but if it returns to true, it means the password matches. So we're just mocking this to write our test. So we're just making it to return true. That is to tell you that this password and the one in the database matches. So it will return true. Okay, so now we'll go ahead. So now that it returns true, we will sign the user in. We'll say, okay, const result is equal to await code service dot sign in, and then what I will sign in the existing user. The existing user, we want to sign them in. Okay, so after signing them in, what else do we expect? Expect the result dot to equal. Then we have a token of mog token like this. This is wonderful. Okay. Here we are saying this is hash password and not existing user. We have hash password. This like this. Okay. So now let's run our tests. npm run tests and see what it got. Okay, we have 3 tests and they are all passing. So you may be wondering what we're actually testing here. Okay, if you look at this, let's go back to our main functionality here. We have the sign in. First of all, check if, okay, we are here to test this one. We should have tested it first, but we jumped it and then test this one. We will compare the password. And then if the password is incorrect, we will return invalid credentials. But we did not do that. And the reason why we did not do that is because we don't want to do it. And that is the reason why we are saying, okay, basically return true. Okay, if you want to test that, you can go ahead and test it, return false, and then throw this error, invalid credentials. So this is basically what we're testing. And then next, we are testing this. If a user does not exist, we will say invalid credentials. Okay, so this is what you are testing. A user supply their information here. We grab that information and then we log them in. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do something here. Okay, you say, okay, just spy on, this is bcrypt, right? Bcrypt, and the function here is what? Hash. Okay, so what are we mocking? We are mocking the implementation of this function, mock implementation. So this will hash a password. It's an async function, and it will hash a password and then return that password. And then here we see hashed password. And here we will just say hashed password like this. Or you can basically say const hashed password is equal to hashed password, and then reuse it here, which is HP, and then bring it over here again, which is a HP, like this. Okay, so let's run our test and see if it's still passing. Okay, so our test is still passing. So I actually did this to show you how you can actually use the function or mock it. We are mocking this function and we are not using the actual implementation of this function. We are just mocking it. So it's up to you to actually mock it, and mocking makes things faster. So let me just remove this, and here our function is still working as expected. Okay, so now that we've signed a user in, we did not check if a user's password is wrong or not. Okay, so what we will do here is we'll say should throw error if user does not exist. Okay, so what I mentioned earlier. So let's make it a number 1 test. We say should throw an error if user does not exist, like this. And then this is basically an async callback. And inside of this callback, then we say, okay, const non-existing user is equal to elytra, and then we say username is of is a wrong user. Password, wrong password like this. So now that we have a non-existing user, we'll have to spy on this function. This time around, we spied on this function and then we say it should return the existing user so that we throw this error. But this time around, we spy on this function and then we ensure it returns null. Where is it? Where is it? Okay. So now we spy on this function and then it should return null because that means the user does not exist in our database. And this time around, we are throwing an error. Okay, so we spy on this function and then we say, okay, await, and then we expect auth service that sign in the non-existing user, and then we say dot to reject to throw. So throw this error. What error are we trying? Why are we throwing it if the user doesn't exist? Invalid credentials. What is this? Nope, it's not water. Okay, invalid credentials. So this is the error we want to throw, invalid credentials. Okay, so we save this. And then we are good to go. Is that the error we're throwing? Okay, invalid credentials. Yes, that is the error we're actually throwing. Okay, so now let's run this test once more and see. npm run test. Okay, so all our tests are passing. We have auth service, and then we should throw error if user already exists, is passing. Should create a new user and return a token, is passing. The sign in should throw an error if a user does not exist, is passing, and every other test is also passing. So what else should we test in our signing? What if the password is wrong? The password is incorrect. So we say, okay, it's, and then say, should throw error if password is incorrect, like this. And this is also an async callback. Okay, and here I will see the mock user. Let's see const mock user. Let's just copy this, bring it over here. Let's see const mock user. Here the username is KodeCamp, and the password is password, like this. Okay, let's say mock user. Username is KodeCamp and the password is password. Okay, so this time around, we want to spy on jest and mock. What is this? Just mocking thing. Where is bcrypt? Where is bcrypt? This time around, and then let's copy this hashed password, bring it over here, and change this one to wrong password. Okay, this is the hash password, but the what will be returned will be no hash password. Okay, as you can see, the user's password is password. That is the mocked user, but the password we are hashing is a wrong password. Okay, so what we will do now is we will say, okay, existing user. Who is the existing user? We have an existing user here. We just say const existing user. Where is it? Okay. Const existing user is equal to existing. Okay, let's say const user. Because I want to make const user is equal to existing user, but then the password, we'll change the password to the hashed password. And the hash password is HP, and this. Okay, this is the user. And then what we will do here is basically spy on the find unique function. Where is the find unique function? Find unique. Bring it over here. Find unique function, and then we want to say, okay, this find unique function should return an existing user. An existing user, or let's say this user, this very user here. This user. Okay, so we want to find a unique user and make sure after we're trying to sign in. So we find a unique user with that password, the supplied password. Not really, not the password, but the username. The username, right? Yes, the username. So we spy on that and the existing user. Then we compare the password. After finding the existing user from the database, we say, okay, just spy on, or wait, it's we compare. Let's grab this, bring it over here, and this time around we change this to false because the passwords are wrong. The one here is the password and the hashed password is the wrong password. So they are wrong. So what we want to do is this, and then we say we want to sign the mocked user in. We say, okay, the result is equal to await auth service dot sign in mock user dot reject dot true dot reject the mock user. Okay, no, that's then expect, and this is basically what we can see await expect, and then the auth service we're trying to sign in. So the response should be the sign in mock user, and then reject true, but reject dot to true. And what are we throwing? It should be the same thing as invalid credentials. Okay, let's just copy this, bring it over here, and then change this one to mock. Is it the mock user or mock user? Like this. Great. Now let's run our test once more. npm run test. Okay, so our test is passing because we are just mocking everything now. We're saying, okay, since this password is the wrong one, we're hashing the wrong password, and then we're trying to sign them in. And the existing user here is the existing user. Their password is password, and the one we're hashing here is where is it? The one we're hashing here is the wrong password. So the passwords does not match. So as we're comparing them, we're returning false. And we're saying expect also when we sign them in, when we try to sign a user in with the wrong password, what happens? If the password is not correct, invalid credentials. And that is what we are doing here, and our tests are passing. Wow, this is great. And we are having fun. Do you love testing? If you love testing, just say, yes, I love testing. But if you don't love testing, oh, I'm sorry, you will love testing. Okay, so moving on. Bio day saying no. Don't worry, you get to love testing. You fall in love with testing. Testing is very, very sweet. Yes, you love it. You fall in love with it. Okay, so moving forward, I just wish we can test the auth controller, but that is very, very simple. And you can go ahead and test that. It's very, very simple. Okay, so the next thing we're testing is we're moving to E2E, end-to-end testing, because we don't have enough time to cover the controllers and the end-to-end. So we move to E2E. So where is the test? We move to the test folder, and here we have the E2E folder. So now that our unit tests are passing, we have 5 unit tests and they're all passing. Let's clear the terminal. And you say npm run e to e, run test. Run test, what is this? Test e to e. Run test end to end. Okay, so now it's running. And then we have one failed test. And the reason why is because of just cannot resolve all of this. So // and it's fine now. // Okay, so all the tests now will pass. Okay, so run this. Run test. Okay, so it is failing just because, okay, Prisma service from where? Alt module, JWT strategy, cannot find Prisma in JWT strategy, okay? So we have to come over to the alt, read the notes of the alt. Prisma module, notes module, and cannot find module of JWT strategy. Prisma service, JWT strategy. Okay, so we have to make this, change this one as well. Where is it? Prisma / Prisma service. And what else is it complaining about? The AWT strategy and then the alt module. In the alt module imported in the app module. Okay, let's run this once more and see if we've got any other errors. It's still failing, and this time around Prisma service, and it is inside app module. Okay. Notes module, note service. Check the notes module. Okay, and then make something like /. Okay, it's not // Prisma module. So Prisma / module. And then the note series. Have something like that as well. It should be like this. We'll remove one. Okay, so let's run this, and then we shouldn't have errors, and our test will still fail. It is failing now. Okay, JWT alt guard. And where is it? Wow. Note controller, note module, note controller. Okay, this note controller, and then the note module. FS, what is FS doing here? Let's remove that FS, note module. And here, I think, okay. npm run test E to E. Failing. Great. And this time around, it is the actual test that is failing. We don't have any more errors. Okay, so let's make this test pass and be sure of what we are doing. Okay, so it should get, in fact, let's remove this. Let's say expect 1 + 1 dot to be 2 or dot to equal 2. Then run this test once more. Then we shouldn't have any errors. Great, we have one test passing. Okay, but that is just a basic test. We want to write an E to E test. So how are we going to achieve this E to E test? So we have things imported. We have the request and every other thing imported, but then we need the note service. Let's say we're testing. What are we testing? The app. Should we say the app controller? Okay, basically, let's just leave the name like that. But we need the note service, the note module. The app module is here. Prisma module. We need the note service. Import note service, and then you see like this. so that we don't get errors. Okay, first of all, before we start, we need something. What do we need? We need a mock node. So const mock node is equal to ID of 1, title of let's say test node, and content of test node. Is it content or description? Let's check our Prisma schema. Content, great. Content of test node. And then we have a node must have a user ID, like user ID of user 1, basically this. Okay, so we need also a mock token. So you see const mock token. So we can basically go ahead and mock this token, but due to time, let's just grab this token. It hasn't expired yet. So let's grab this token from here and then paste it in here so we can make use of it. Because in creating a node, it's an authenticated request. So basically here we have this, and there's something else also that we need. Okay, here's a before each. And so let's make this come. Let's have this let's say const mock node service. So we can go ahead and then mock. This is another pattern, another strategy we are following here. We can just mock all the node service. So we have the create node, the get node, update node, and delete node. So what we're just making things simple for us, create node, and then the create node here will say, okay, just .fn mock resolved value of mock node. Mock resolved value. It's not return value, the resolved value of mock nodes like this. So let's grab this mock nodes and bring it up here to avoid errors. Mock result value of mock node. So how many methods do you have? Create node 1, get node 2, get node 3, get update node 4 and 5, delete node. Okay, let's just copy this 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 5 method. And then let's check. Oops, what's this? Let's change this one to get nodes. And then get nodes will return an array of nodes. So let's just say this is an array of nodes with one node inside. So we have also a get node that will return a single node. We have update node that will update a node and return it. And then we have the delete node that will delete a node and also return it. Great. So we've mocked our node service. This is all the methods we have in our node service. Okay, so instead of using in our app module, we have the import. In our note module, we have the import of app module. So we can go ahead and then remove all of this. And then we can see we want to override. So we don't want to compile first. First of all, we want to override, or not override things. I want to override provider. We want to override the provider. Which provider do you want to override? The node service. We want to override the node service. And then after overriding it, we want to use value. What value do you want to use? Which is the mock node, which is the mock node service. We want to use this value. And then after that, just compile and then make our test ready to run, compile. So what we're basically doing here is you just have to go back to the docs, read it, and then make yourself understand all of this. We don't want to use the actual implementation of the node service. We want to override it. You know what override means? We want to override it and then use the mock node service. We want to use this method here that we've mocked. So let's just, in fact, grab all of this and then bring it all over to the top to be sure of what you're doing. So we want to use this mock node service that has this method. We don't want to use the method, the actual method. So, okay, so now that we've overridden this method, what else do we need to do? We have our mock token. Okay, the app init, we need to add another method. So after all the tests are run, after all the tests, then we have async, async callback. You know, and E2E test, your application will have to start before the test will run. So this is the meaning, this is the word why they are saying await app init. So app init here means this is initializes the next application, calls the next lifecycle event. It isn't mandatory to call this method directly. Okay, so now that we've initialized this, and then here we say, okay, after all the tests are run, we say await app.close. After running all the tests, we want to close our app. And this before each and after all methods are coming from jest. And there are some cases where we need before or after each, and all of that. There are several hooks. You can go to the jest docs, and then all the methods are almost the same thing with the vitest methods. You can go to the jest docs and then look at those. They're all there for you. Okay, so now that we've implemented this and then we have a mock token as well, what else do we need? Okay, so we need a test suite, and then this test suite, we don't even need a test suite. We just go ahead and start writing our test. Okay, so here we say get, but this, let's change this to notes. We want to get notes, and then so we say create note DTO. Let's look at the create note DTO. Okay, well, let's not use this one. This one has plenty distance. You can just come over here and do this. Okay. Create note DTO. Let's say this is equal to, and then you say, okay, title is test note. And make sure it matches this note, test notes, and then in fact, let's just copy this thing. Bring it over to this place and then save it. So we want to create, well, this is create note, this is post, post request, not get. So we want to create a note. So what else do we need? Okay, so now that we have a note, we say, okay, now we have this imported, the request from super test. So we make it to use, we use it to make a request to app. So see const response, because response is equal to await. We await the request, and in this request we say app.get HTTP what? HTTP server, with the HTTP server, and then we say that post. Then we are posting to which route? Node, to the node route. And then we are sending that send create node DTO. And then we're saying, okay, first of all, we need to set the headers. Say dot set, not send, set. What are you? Say set, and then we say, okay, let's say applicate, I will say authorization. Because before you create a node, you need to be authorized. The authorization, and then we say bearer, and then what is in there, the bearer, and then we say the mock token. We're sending a mock token together with it, and then we say expect 201, because when you create a node, you are expecting it to. We're getting this error here because we forgot to add async. Okay, so this error has gone away. And then after creating and expecting 201, you come down here and then you say expect response dot body, not body. What is this? This is await response. Where is the response? Here. I think the response should be there. Response body. Okay, yes, response body. So what do we expect the response body to be? So what assertion method should we use? Can anyone tell me what is it to what? Dot, is it to be close to, or to be, or is it to equal or to contain? Which one should we use? Okay, I guess it should be to equal the note, the mock note. It is equal the mock note. Because where is the mock note? Here is the mock note, and this is the content we are using to create here. So it should equal the mock note. So npm run test e to e. So let's see if our test is passing. Oh, great. So our test is passing. So we're this is an end-to-end test. So we assume a user is logged in, and then they are creating a note. Okay, so the reason why I jumped over to create note here is because in our task, in our upcoming task, you may be required to sign up or sign in before doing so. You may later modify this on your own, sign in, and then create a note. And this mock token will be coming from the signed in user. So you have to do that all on your own. Great. So now that we've created a note and our test is passing, our end-to-end test is passing. Now let's comment out this set and then run test. Since it is a protected route. Now the test is failing, and here is expected 201 but got 401 unauthorized. There's no token, so we are not authorized. That's great. So let's leave it. And then the next test should be, it works. This one is to get, it's the same note route, but it's a get request to get all the notes. This is an async callback. And inside of here, we say, okay, const response is equal to await. So what are we awaiting for? We're waiting for the request. In fact, just copy this thing here. Bring it down here. And this is not a protected route. Remove this one. Save it. Remove the send. And then change it to 200. Because it is a get route, not a post. So expect response body to equal an array of mock notes like this. So let's run this npm run test e to e. It is failing. And why is it failing? Expect 200. Okay, so we're expected 200. Okay, we're getting 401 unauthorized. Okay, 401 unauthorized. Why are we getting? Okay, dot get, not post. Get. We are posting it. So the post is an unauthorized method, an unauthorized route, and a protected route, I mean to say, and it is unauthorized. It's a get. Okay, and it is now passing. We have the note post and the note get. Okay, so let's just copy this one down here. And this time around, /id. This time around, we say, okay, const note id is equal to 1. So we'll come over here. We say get /note /note id like this. And then this time, remove this. You will get an error if you leave it like this. npm run test e to e. And the test will fail. Okay, because we are expected. What is this? 401 on it. This is a get request. Unauthorized. Why is it unauthorized? This is a get test note node ID. Okay, let's remove this one. The error I'm expecting is different, but then I'm seeing an unauthorized, which is surprising. Oops, unauthorized. So let's check our implementation of node controller. To get a single node, oops, oops, oops. Okay, you don't need to be authorized to get a single node, but since we already implemented it, let's just come over here and then grab this mock token and then place it over here so that a user must be authorized. And then let's return our array of nodes because we're getting a single node, and this time around we're specifying it to be an array of nodes. Okay, so the test is failing, but now it is saying, okay, well, you expected an array, but what is returning is an object. Okay, so that's correct. So let's remove this. As you can see, even if we have made mistakes, our test is correcting it for us. So you run the test once more, and then all the three tests are passing. The create nodes, the get nodes, and the get node by ID, they are all passing. So what next? The next test should be to update a node. So let's just copy this one here, paste it here, and then change this to patch. And here should be patch like this, patch nodes ID. Okay, and then the updated nodes. Let's just copy this one, bring it down here, change. Okay, it should be here. Okay, say update nodes, update node GTO, and then you say updated, and then the content of updated, like this, basically. Okay, so now that it's a patch, we need a send update node GTO. And then after updating, the patch should be a 200 or a 201. The put is a 201, the patch basically 200. Okay, so now we're expecting this. This is basically it. Let's run this test. But that's all we need because we need to update a node, and then we are patching, and then we are expecting the mock nodes, updated nodes, mock token, update node. Okay, let's run this test once more. npm run test. We have one test suite and four tests, and they're all passing. Okay, for the final one here, let's just copy this one, paste it down here, and this time around it's a delete, and we're also deleting a node by ID. Delete. Okay, so the ID of the node is 1, and then this time around there's no send, there's no update or create no DTO, and the method is delete. So this is great, and we're expecting a 200, and then the bearer token is also there. So let's test this npm run test. And all our 5 tests are passing. So if you come over here and then uncomment this is a protected route, and then you make this request. So right now we have 4 tests passing and 1 is failing just because we are not authorized. 4 or 1 unauthorized. We are expecting 200, but it's returning. And if you want to see the response button, you can see console.log response. Console.log response. What is this? Response body. So let's run this test. It's failing, but then we can see the response body. Where is it? Response body. Okay, we're not getting to that point. It's tapping here. Okay, so we can just see okay, response body, and then we can also log response status. We can run this test once more to pass, and then we'll see these. So if you want to debug, this is how you debug. Just log, and then we can see the response body's ID, test notes, content of test notes, and then we have the status here is 200. Okay, so if you change this and then change this to 201, and then send this request. So the test will fail, but then we'll see this on. Okay, so it is failing, and it is not getting to this point. So expected 201 created, but got 200. Okay, that's great. So let's just undo it, and then run the test once more. npm run test e2e. So our E2E tests are passing. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 E2E tests, and then we have about 5 unit tests. npm run test, npm run test like this. All our unit tests are passing, and all our end-to-end tests are also passing. So let's remove what we don't need. We don't need this, and we don't need all of those. So this is great. Wow, wow, wow. So I'm sorry, we're supposed to come over here and the unit test auth controller. This is where we test the main route. But then we're not going to be doing that because there's no time. If you start, you will not be able to finish it. And then I will leave it up to you because you already know the basics, and then you can go ahead and wire it up. And to test this is more simpler than to test the auth service. Okay, so we've come to the end of today's class, and we also tested the create node, get nodes, update nodes, delete nodes, end-to-end test. That is awesome. So we've come to the end of today's class, and if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask. Okay, so in absence of any questions, let's call this